You know that this building was named after a gentleman by the name of Carl May. And Jeff Bowman, I know for days, maybe even weeks, has been researching just who in the world was Carl May. So now we're going to have an opportunity to hear from Jeff to find out exactly what he found out about Carl May.
First of all, I have to comment that this remodel is absolutely spectacular. What do you think? Coming from the computer industry before moving out to Desert Hot Springs, I love the technology. I like the fact that we have our screens, that the council has tools at their disposal, that they can communicate with us, the public, and I think it's fantastic. I'm Jeff Bowman. I've been honored to be the president of the Historical Society, and that's because when we were looking for a president, everybody else stepped back, and I was the one in front. And I feel often ill-equipped to be the president of the Historical Society because I've only been here 8 years. And there are some in this room that go back a lot further than that and have a lot more data and knowledge. And so I am thankful to be in my position, but I'm also humbled by the fact to be there. In '03, when my wife Judy and I moved to Desert Hot Springs, having acquired the Kismet Lodge over there on Mountain View Road, we reopened it and named it Living Water Spa. We remember our first Chamber of Commerce and hotelier meetings and people mentioning that the city council would be meeting at the Carl May. Well, we're from Orange County and we didn't know what nor where the Carl May was, because everybody who's been here forever doesn't have to put the address anywhere. And I've also come to understand, as a side note, that in the early days, the city council met at the building that is now the wonderful Mexican restaurant south of the border, way back in the day. And then after that, sometime later, they met at the facility, the building that's at the end of Palm Drive and Mission Lakes, that mid-century modern-looking building. And I'd like to have more information on all those. So anyway, we asked where was the Carl May, and we were told off Pearson on north on west. And so we showed up for city council meetings. Who was Carl May? Here's what I've gathered from my research. He and his wife came to Desert Hot Springs in the 1970s, having purchased the Mary Ann Manor. Anybody know where that was? Or it's still there, but it's no longer called the Mary Ann Manor. It was a 10-room spa-tel over on Quinta Way, right off Hacienda. Now it is part of the ranch's halfway house system, and it houses females making the transition back into being good citizens. And like other hoteliers of his day, Carl May was proud of his spa and the amazing hot water that he provided his guests. And like many of us hoteliers, Carl became involved in the city, wanting to make it a better place. And I've not been able to piece together the actual sequence of the various groups or citizens active committees that he was involved in and in what sequence, but I have discovered that he got on the city council in 1976. And I'd like to quote from the book Waters of Comfort by John Hunt. If you've not had occasion to get the book or read it, you should. It's very instructive, how history repeats itself. He goes, quote, 1976 started off with more political wrangling. 11 hopefuls were chasing after 3 council seats. And a new face emerged in the special election in January to replace the ousted Sterling, and that was Julius Corsini, who walloped the competition by 200 votes. Later in March, yet another election, Floyd, also known as Bud Reed, swept the field for the council with Coley Rod. Erod had run unsuccessfully for the water board 3 times. But now, finally, along with Carl May, he would take the seat of the controls of the city council. And during his time of activity here in our wonderful city, he was the founding chairman of the Traffic and Code Committee, probably now called the Public Safety Commission. Carl May was the exalted ruler of the Elks organization here in town. He was president of the Rotary Club. Now just think about these things. All the while, he's a hotel owner. He was a director for the Boys and Girls Club. He was a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and naturally, he was a member of the Spatel organization. Through my research, I discovered that in 1977, Carl May became mayor, and he held that position until 1980. Finally, in 1980, DHS had the first election where the mayor was voted or elected by the electorate. And Carl decided not to run as mayor that time, but instead seek another 4-year term just as a council person. I understand that Corsini ran for that first seat and won it. To me, this shows the kind of man that Carl was. Not power-hungry, willing to step away if he saw that it would be best for the city and get on with just simply being a council person. I shouldn't say simply, tons of work. And finally, in 1986, in the November election, he lost. And so he served the city on the city council from 1976 to 1986. It appears, from what I can gather, that Carl May passed away sometime in 1987. And it appears, and I say that because, as with all historians and with scholars, I enjoy this, it's always subject to more data. But it appears that in 1987, the then mayor, May 18, pronounced that day, May 18, 1987, Carl May Day. And it was perhaps at this time that the building was given his name. And you can hear my perhaps because I haven't been able to codify it exactly, but it makes sense to me, the timeline. According to those alive today that knew Carl, and I was able to talk to a handful of them, he was a tall, thin man, kind of quiet, but got things done. And I'm forever grateful for those whom I interviewed for this memorial look back at Carl May. The DHS Rotary website provided me with a great outline, and of course, John Hunt's book, The Waters of Comfort. And now might I share a word of encouragement from our Historical Society for those of you gathered today. I look out at you, and again, I see people that have been here far longer than I. You have done so many things to move the ball forward for our town. May I implore you, sit down, please, and take a look at your life and give us, write down a chronology of what you did, maybe what was done to you, the things you've accomplished, how you've helped the city move forward. We need this information. Without it, those coming to town scratch their head like Judy and I did back in '03 and say, who and what is Carl May? And it's our job as the Historical Society to capture that information and to get it down so that forever we will have who the people are that love this town and care for it enough to step up and serve. So please, let me know. Write it. You should do it for your own family, if nothing else. In closing, we're in a building today that bears the name of a man whom during my research I really got to like. A model citizen, if you will, who had opinions, ideas, passions about this town, the people, our water, And he did something. He got involved. From that list of things, from city council, mayor, Rotary, Elks, Boys and Girls Club, wow. It is so easy to throw stones at the current builders or leaders of our community, to be critical of their failures and understate their successes. But Carl May teaches us. He teaches us to pick up those very stones and keep building anyway, because the future of our town depends on it. This is Carl May. 1970s to 1987, mayor, councilman, hotelier, Rotarian, Elks Club, and committed to making DHS a better place. Perhaps we can find a place somewhere to put him up on the wall. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you, my mayor.
That was absolutely great. Okay, I think now it's time to do our ribbon cutting. So, where's the ribbon? And where is the scissors? Well, there's the scissors.